at Adyashanti's home, and he said, "Craig, what are you speaking about?" And I started to rattle off the title of my talk. Suffering, the Grand Gate of Integrated Awakening. And after I said that, I was like, my God, it sounds so big, so serious. And he looked into my eyes directly, and in that moment I went completely blank, and I was saying, he was waiting for my response about what this means. When I was quite young, I used to look out at the world, and I saw so much beauty everywhere. Just this absolute beauty. Whether it's radiating from a star or a tree, just the hugeness of the sky. My heart was just open in this way where I felt just tremendous love. But then, like we all have this experience, it seems also as if this world is so harsh, so violent, so brutal. I grew up in a house, with a father who I very much love, and he's in heaven now. But he was a military guy. He was very serious. The sense in the household was basically shut the hell up. Don't talk. Don't make a noise, Stand at attention. Everything needs to be ship-shape and all that silliness. And so I grew up with this heart that was just open and just naturally in love with all of life. But then when I was in the room with, say, my father, or go to school and you feel all those harsh energies, or like each night we would turn on the news and sit at the dinner table and watch Dan Rather. Do you guys remember Dan Rather? And he would talk about the war in Israel and Palestine. And as a kid growing up, in the 80s, there was that sense of, we did the drills where, the siren would sound, and we'd all go down into the bomb shelter of the school. I thought, my God, there's something terribly off in this world. And so I had this internal conflict, and my direct experience of God was one of beauty, of spaciousness, of openness, and love. And yet when I looked out at the world, I saw so much suffering, so much pain everywhere. And I had this ongoing conversation with God, in the sense, especially when I was having a really bad day, like we all do, asking God, why the hell did you create suffering? What's the point of it? I think we've all had this thought before. If I were God, I would make a world in which there was no pain. And there is such a world. It's called heaven, right? But one of the things that doesn't happen much in heaven is growth, is evolution. It took me a long time to figure that out. That what is the purpose of suffering? Like, what is it? As a kid who grew up in this house with, a sensitive heart and a father who kind of told me to shut up more often than not, and just having this sense of being terrified of life. What was my movement forward in life? Well, if we listen to our ego, our movement forward is we learn things like be quiet, don't talk, make yourself small. And in a sense, that's a survival movement. We do that, and that keeps us safe in the world. And that's beautiful for, say, like the first 18 years of your life. is to find that place of safety, find that strategy or that skill. That's an ego working properly. Someone tells you to shut up, okay, be quiet and be small. That's not a bad thing. But as we mature and become older, then we can begin to have a different conversation with ourselves. Can I let go of this lower level of intelligence, this lower egoic level of intelligence, and step into a higher movement of intelligence? So in a sense, what God is, very much so, in the realm of suffering, is God is this force of evolution, continually inviting us to evolve, to grow, to step into something higher. In Buddhism, especially in the world of Tantra, they speak about these different gates. These gates of awakening, these gates of embodiment. And so when I looked up my life and I was, this kid who was told to be quiet, to shut up, to do this and that, to be a soldier, don't question anything, don't speak up. I became really angry inside. And so one of my questions to God, often like the question of, why the hell is there suffering, was why did you invent anger? Because what I noticed was arising within my consciousness was tremendous anger. If anyone grows up in an abusive household or a household where you're told to shut up, chances are you will develop this wonderful thing called anger. And for someone who came into this world with a monk archetype, a sense of being peaceful, anger was something I tried to just cut out of me. I tried to sit in meditation for 4 hours a day and make it disappear. In a sense, very much how we teach non-duality is this sense of, I'm going to just try to transcend whatever it is that I don't like within myself. Can I simply transcend this anger? But what I noticed is the anger wasn't going anywhere. And so oftentimes I would look at God and say, why did you create anger? Why did you create fear? Why did you create absolute insecurity? Could I please just be transported into this heaven world, to a place of transcendence where none of this exists? And I tried many years this approach of simply transcending. In fact, a lot of my work with my teacher involved transcending. And I should say one of my teachers. With Ajahn, when I first met him, it was all about the transcendence. And there was a moment where, for a year or two, the transcendence game worked really well. But at some point I noticed, there's that anger again. And so instead of trying to transcend it, I thought, what if I open into it? What's the divine experience of anger? What is it? And so at first I noticed this energy arising within me. It was very frightening, very raw. It felt like a volcano wanting to explode out of me in every direction. I had violent images, putting my fists through a wall and ripping heads off. I had images of, bombs exploding and wars being waged throughout my consciousness. But I kept opening into it and not shying away from it. And I found this beautiful thing. That child who was once quite small and just wanted to be small so that I could hide from my father, that child learned to be quite large, quite powerful. Not afraid of things which were violent or abusive. Not afraid of things which were uncomfortable. You know, it's interesting hanging out with so many spiritual people. You know, what you find is oftentimes most spiritual people are a lot like wet noodles. They're terrified of anything intense. Terrified. Unless it's an intensely blissful experience. Now that, they will absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. But then you put them in a room with, say, I don't know, someone who has energy that doesn't feel good. What do? Oh my God, do I need to run away? Oh my God, you need to talk more quietly or politely. You're disturbing the presence. And I know that person because for a long time on the spiritual path, I was that individual. But through the force of evolution, through this opening into this gate, say, of anger, when you sit with it fully, it transforms into power. And if you look at an individual like Jesus, he wasn't fucking frightened of anything. He wasn't afraid of anyone. Not even his own death. So how does he get there? Through embracing every aspect of suffering. Every aspect. So whether it's anger, fear, incredible sadness, addiction, whatever it is. I was speaking with some friends last night about heartache. If you want to learn to truly love, we must be willing to open fully and completely. And not fully and completely just to bliss and things that feel good and are soft and huggable. If we want to know true love, we must be willing to open to everything. And that means we must be willing to feel uncomfortable. And one of the things about suffering, if we truly open to it, we learn to be with that which is uncomfortable. We learn to open to it in a way where we realize that suffering itself is not some mistake made by God, but it's a doorway opening us into our absolute indestructibility. Indestructibility. Now, how does one learn fearlessness? Through embracing fear. Not through sitting on a meditation cushion for 6 hours. Not through going on a wonderful retreat. It's through embracing suffering. Through embracing heartache, public humiliation. What do you learn when all of your friends and your family and your children betray you? That I'm the victim of life? That's what an ego learns, right? I'm the victim. Everyone's against me. But if you truly open to that experience of everyone betraying you, stabbing you in the back, abandoning you, leaving you, what is it that you learn? What is the point of such an experience? When we're given the gift of betrayal, it's a doorway, it's a gate where we can discover how absolutely powerful we are, how indestructible is our nature, how there's something within us that outlives everything. Outlives everything. And so we have this opportunity. If we truly want to awaken, we open into this space. We say hell yes to suffering. We see it the same way we see a beautiful woman or beautiful man. We bow before it. We say, thank you, God, for coming in this form. Thank you for shocking me into reality. Thank you for pushing me over the edge. People come to me all the time and they say, I want to know fearlessness. The way we know fearlessness is through embracing all fear, through our skin crawling, through having our heart ripped out of our chest, through being publicly humiliated. And then we discover that which is here, which is beyond death, beyond fear. And so this is a brutal teaching. It's an unpopular teaching. I like to be the teacher that just talked about transcendence, but I couldn't keep it up with transcendence. I wanted to know, could the transcendent reality be here in every moment of life? Every moment. When my heart was being ripped out of me, can it be here? When my father was dying, could it be here? When someone on YouTube calls me the Antichrist, could it be here? Could it be here? Is it true that all is God? Is it true? The only way we find this is through embracing everything, opening to everything, to finding God in the midst of hell. And a funny thing happens. You wake up and you realize it's all heaven. Even if it hurts. Even if it hurts. So anyways, thank you all so much. It's 20 minutes. I'm sorry, I just tried to cover a topic I normally spend 3 days on in 20 minutes. But thank you for taking the time. I feel humbled to be here.